Stitchers, I'm Amy, I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher, and welcome to our Flosstube channel today. If you are just finding us for the first time, thanks so much for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoy it. This is a YouTube video about cross stitch. If you're returning and you have visited with us before, welcome back. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time today. We hope you enjoy your time with us. So we don't have a whole lot in the way of announcements or updates or kind of things going on. It's just life as usual here. We did talk in our last video that I was heading to Tanzania for a work trip. And so just really quickly, I didn't do any field visits or anything that's like all that shareable. So I don't have a whole lot to show you from that, but it was a good trip. Just a couple of thoughts from that. So Tanzania, I was on the coastline of Tanzania, which is very hot and humid. So it was a little bit miserable in that sense. It was just like, everybody was just like, ugh, why is it so hot here? So it was hot and humid. And then at the same time, I apparently caught a cold from somebody who was on one of my flights because a day or two after I arrived, I started feeling awful. So I was like sick and like most of the week that I was there. In fact, my next to last day there, which was my heaviest day of meetings, of course, I was just like, I was so miserable. I even told my boss, I was like, I'm thinking about taking all of my meetings from my room because I just feel terrible. But I made it through and it was fine. So again, like I said, I don't have a lot to show. It was a really great week. So I was at the Africa Food Systems Forum, which is a big annual event. And one of the things that was a really pleasant surprise was there were several like former colleagues as well as some partners who I haven't seen for a couple of years, and I didn't know they were also going to be in attendance. And so I ran into some faces that I haven't seen in a long time, and it was so lovely to catch up with some people. So that was a really nice part of the trip. I also got a very special latte. So my boss and I were having a meeting. We were working on a presentation in the lounge at the hotel that we were staying at, and I needed a latte because it was mid-afternoon and I was definitely feeling the jet lag slump. And so the guys at the bar, for whatever reason, every now and then somebody will like do something special and a little bit out of the ordinary. So they made me a latte and they brought it to the table, and it was so funny. My boss took a picture for me because they had written on the top of my latte, "Classic Lady." So I thought that was hilarious. So we have a picture of that. The other thing, there were some really exceptionally beautiful sunsets. So I got a few pictures from my room of kind of the cityscape with the sunset. There was also a really gorgeous sunrise as I was flying into Amsterdam on my way home. So we can show that. And then I got a short video clip on during the opening plenary of the forum. There was a local youth dance troupe that they brought in to showcase some traditional African dance. And so we've got a short video clip of some of that, which is really fun. I'll warn you, the audio is not very good because it was from my phone and I was at the back of the room. So it was, there's some interference in some parts of the video as far as people like walking in front, but hopefully you enjoy that. Okay, so that's about it for us as far as like non-stitchy stuff. So let's get into, just jump right into stitching. So I have a fully finished object to share with you. And as I've been talking about in a couple of our recent videos, I've been trying to work my way through my backlog of finished projects that need to be fully finished. And so I've been kind of working my way over the last month or so toward the one I'm going to share with you today, which I'm super excited about and I think is pretty special. So earlier this year, I finished the stitching on Celtic Winter by Lavender and Lace. And so I'm really happy to have this one done because it is pretty special to me. So here's how it turned out. All right. This is a beast. So I stitched her several things for those of you who who weren't watching our channel when I was stitching this design. So I stitched her on a piece of 32 count Haunted Belfast linen by Picture This Plus, which I think was the perfect fabric for her. The other thing, if you're familiar with the chart, the original chart is whites and golds. And so as you can see, this is a very significant conversion. So in the original chart, also, she's just wearing a gown. She's not wearing a special like cloak cape kind of thing. And in this is a conversion where it's been recharted to have her wearing this beautiful cloak. And of course, I stitched this all in cool tones. So she's in blue and white and silver and some purple accents. I think she's absolutely beautiful. The other change that I made, so I think the original design she's a brunette, and I made her a redhead because redheads are fabulous. But she's also carrying a white fur muff in the chart, the original, and I switched that out. I pulled in from Celtic Christmas or Celtic Noel. I can't remember which one it is, but it's it's the Christmas chart in this series. The lady is carrying this beautiful evergreen wreath or bouquet with the flowers in it. And I wanted to use that for this instead of the white fur muff. So that's how she turned out. What I did was, it's been a bit of a process to get her fully finished. So I ordered a custom frame off from a shop on Etsy. This is a really great quality frame. It's really nice and sturdy. The company or the shop is called Laredo Frame Factory, I think it is. And they have, if you need a fancy frame for a finish, like a Mirabilia, and you like to do custom, they're a great option. I'll include a link to them below, but they were really fantastic to work with. And then, so I bought the frame. I went ahead and mounted her myself on the acid freefoam core, but I did have to go and have the mats. I had to have them special cut for me. And there's a shop that's down close to Portland. It's the only place I know of locally that's able to do these kind of specialized mat cuts. And so it took a while to kind of get down there, pick out what I wanted, and then go back and pick it up. But then I assembled everything once I got home. There's a few, like, if I'm being nitpicky, there's a few like minor things that I would rather see different, but I'm like 98% satisfied, and that's good enough for me. So anyway, this is where she is. She's going to hang in our dining room at Christmas. So the colors for Christmas in our dining room are like blues and silvers and some purples. And so she's going to fit right in with all the beautiful things that are in there. But I'm thrilled with how she turned out. I think she's just lovely. And so it's going to be super fun to have her as part of our Christmas and winter display this year. So there you are, Celtic Winter. All right. Oh. So that's it for finished and fully finished objects this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at the whips. So the first whip I will show you is my full coverage piece. I am working on Rose Trellis In by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm stitching this on 28 count white Lugana 2/1 using a combination of half stitch and continental stitch. So the last time you saw this, I had finished stitching. There's like some heart-shaped gingerbread trim that runs across the top or runs across the veranda on the second floor of the inn. So I had finally finished stitching that. I was getting really close to finishing the roof line on the porch that runs along the bottom floor of the inn. What else? I had started, oh gosh, let me hear it. Sorry, I gotta look at my notes because it was a while ago that I did this and I have to remember. I was getting close to finishing the middle section on the porch, and I had also stitched, I'd finished the stitching on, or was stitching in the second curlicue. There's like these curlicue, what's the word? Cornice pieces that kind of frame up the different sections of the porch. And so I had been stitching on that. Sorry. So here's where it is right now. All right, so I'll be honest, this is kind of a sad amount of progress. I barely broke the 1,000 stitch mark this time around, and normally I get between 3,000 and 4,000 stitches in a rotation. This one just got shortchanged because the week I was working on it was the week I traveled to Tanzania. So I only had like 4 days of progress on it. And it was a busy week kind of getting ready to travel and just doing other things. And so I didn't have as much time stitching on it at night as I normally would have. But I still made some progress. So as you can see, I'm really, really close now to finishing the roof. There's just a handful of stitches left there. I'm really close to being finished. There's just a few more stitches here, and then this middle section is done, but I stitched in the siding here. The other thing that I stitched in is at the bottom of the finished stitching here. There's a man and a woman that are sitting having a cup of tea together. And several rotations ago, I had stitched in most of the head of the woman. And this time now the head of the man is emerging here. So it's nice to have that done. I also stitched in, started working in and stitched in quite a bit of this curlicue cornice that's on this third section of the house. And then stitched in more of the window, and it's kind of buried behind my parked threads, but I also started stitching in and made some good progress on the siding here in this final section of the porch on the front of the house. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely we're getting there. And I'm really hoping to kind of get a better chunk of progress on this the next time it comes up in the rotation. But she's looking good. So that's rose trellising. Okay. So the next thing I worked on is the sampler section of my rotation, and that is Faith of the Heart by With Thy Needle and Thread. I am stitching this 2/2 on a piece of 36 count Strauss linen by Color and Cotton. And I'm largely using the called for flosses, although I am making a couple of minor changes as I go. So the last time you saw this, it was a brand new start. I had done a pretty decent job. You could tell that the bird was really taking shape on the left side of the design. And I had made a decent start on the leaves and the vines and flowers that are on that left side of the design. So, sorry for the wrinkles, but it is what it is. Here it is now. So I took this one to Tanzania with me, and so I managed to get some decent stitching on it despite it being a very busy week with a lot of busy meetings at night and dinners at night. So I've completely finished this whole left side here now, where you've got the pot and the bird and all the flowers and vines are now stitched in. You can definitely see the house taking shape. I've got this whole section of the house done with the windows, and I've started filling in the roof line. And then I've done quite a bit of this border section along the bottom, as well as the quote at the bottom. I'm over halfway done with that. So that quote says, "God finds a low branch for the bird that cannot fly." And I love that sentiment. And so I got a fair bit of that stitched in. A couple of thoughts on this one. So this particular chart, this has a couple of Valdani threads that are called for. And Valdani threads come a couple different ways. They come in 3-strand lengths, which those you just stitch you don't pull strands out. You stitch with all 3 as if it was a single strand. And then they also come with 6-strand floss, which you stitch with more like you would like a traditional DMC, where you pull out the number of strands you need. And for some reason, I have both kinds of Valdani in this. I will tell you, it was the 3 strands, no problems. Those have been lovely, just fine to work with. The 6-stranded floss was not lovely to work with. I don't like to say this. I'm not a fan. They're beautiful flosses, but they feel very dry. And I've heard many people say that Weeks dye work flosses feel very dry, and I find them the same. These are worse. They were super dry. I got so many knots. There were so many, I got to the point where I had 1 or 2 strands of floss that I had stitched with that it literally knotted up on me 3 or 4 times in the same strand of floss. And it wasn't easy to get the knots out. Normally I can get knots out pretty easily. I really had to battle with these. So there was some frustration. There were some naughty words. It's fine. It looks beautiful, but this one, I have to say, I would not be keen to stitch with a 6-stranded Valdani again after this project. 3-strand, no problem, but the 6-strand, I think I would avoid in future. I just did not enjoy it. So anyway, that's where I am on that. I think it's beautiful. Now that I have more accomplished on this, I have to say I'm really thrilled with my fabric choice. I mentioned in the last video, I decided to go with kind of a non-traditional fabric, for a samplery kind of piece, or like a primitive style design. Wow. It's more typical to use a neutral, and I went with this blue, and I'm delighted with it. I think it's looking really good on here. So that's where I am on Faith of the Heart. We're going to go to Gary for his update next.
All right. So I'm still working on well, not still, but I actually did get a chance to work on both of my projects. The first one I'll talk to you about is the Women Who Behave. That is by Sue Hillis Designs, and it's stitched on 16 count rock salt Aida by Color and Cotton with the called for DMC. So this one I thought was going to be easy, but then it turned out it wasn't that easy. Then it turned out, well, maybe it's actually not that hard. The last time you saw it, I had just put in the words women who, but I didn't backstitch those yet, so they didn't really look like a whole word yet. Short, I didn't do much, but here it is. Here it is now, and I've actually managed to do the back stitch for women and who, and then I got the word behave written out, but I've got to do the back stitch for that, and then that should be good. And then that's about it on this one, I guess. In terms of, I really only work on this one on weekends if I do work on it on a weekend. But I think between now and the next time we film or shoot, whichever word you like, the next time I'd like to have the word, I keep wanting to say because, but it's behave. Anyway, having the word behave, I keep looking over there because it's actually right off to my left. So anyway, there it is, still there. Anyway, what is it? So yeah, anyway, so that's women who behave. Rarely make history is the whole text. But anyway, that's where that one is. And it's actually kind of fun to work on. I'm trying to figure out, there's these little, they look like handcuffs. I'm trying to figure out how to attach them. I'm sure Amy will tell me how that's done, but whatever. Okay, the next piece that I'm working on is Louis Armstrong. That is, I hope I got this right. This is stitching by Jules Designs, and it's stitched on 16 count white Aida with black DMC. I didn't get much done on this in the past, but I actually did manage to sit down and spend a couple of days on this this week, and I got a lot more done. However,
Dun, dun, dun.
I guess, wait, I got to do this. The last time you saw it, right, there wasn't much done. Yeah, and I was kind of sloughing. I wasn't really spending a whole lot of time working on it. But anyway, now here it is again, where I am now. And you can see I've done a lot more. However, there's a problem. A lot of the stitching that's at the very top there, you'll see a little square when I say the top, it either has to come out, but there's a mistake. And it could throw off the top of the trumpet, and I don't want to do that. So we've got that one sitting out for now, and I'm working on the other one. But anyway, that's where I am on both of them. Yeah, so that's. I feel like that's all I have to say. So.
Okay. So I have two more whips to show you. So the first of those is my travel stitching. And many of you already know I am working my way through the chart pack of the Christmas Cheer Pin Pillows by Jeanette Douglas Designs, stitching all 6 of them on the same piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend Linen by R&R Reproductions. I'm stitching these 2/2, and I'm using all the called for flosses. So the last time you saw this piece, I had completely stitched the left side border of the design, and then there's this sort of like green vine that forms it's the main element of the border. So I had also stitched just that vine along the top of the design and down the the right hand side. And then I had also started along the top stitching, and there's an inner border. So I took this piece with me to Tanzania. I got quite a good amount of stitching time on my flights and in the airports on it. So, sorry, I'm just going to try and make this look a little teeny tiny bit less messy for you. All right, good enough. So here's where it is right now. I made a lot of progress. So I have now completely finished the stitching in the outside border. I'm also close to being done with stitching that inside border. I've stitched the words Merry Christmas now, and I've started working on the berry bowl that sits there. One of the things that I didn't realize until I actually got to the stitching part of this is the berries in that berry bowl are mostly 1/1 stitching, which I've done 1/1 up to 32 count. I've never done it on a higher count. So as a 36 count, I'm finding it a little more challenging to stitch 1/1, but it's not impossible. Especially those of you who like regularly do 1/1 on 40 count and higher, you know, like you guys are amazing. Anyway, this one is one I really want to hustle and get done. Not only, I mean, it's close to a finish, so it feels very reachable to get it done fairly quickly. But I've decided that this one is going to be a gift. And the person that's going to be a gift for is having a life event. I don't want to get too specific just in case they were watching this video. Is going to have a life event sometime in the next couple of months. And so I really want to get this one done and turned into either a pillow or a small frame. I haven't decided which yet, but I'm leaning toward a pillow. But I want to get this done and gifted, ready to gift to that person. So anyway, that's where I am on this one, and I'm happy with how quickly I've been able to make this one, get this one closer to a finish, because it's the largest of the designs in the chart pack, and so I was kind of worried that it might take me a while, but it's coming together really quickly. Okay, so one last whip to share with you, and that is my fancy lady. I am working on At the Met by Mirabilia. I am stitching her 2/2 on a piece of 32 count Aztec red linen by Weeks Dye Works, and I'm largely using the called for floss, except I did do a 1/1 skin conversion on her, and I darkened her skin to make her look more African American. So the last time you saw her was the first time I had a chance to work on her after finishing all of the skin and the top half of the design. So when you saw her before, I had stitched the pedestal base of the archway on the left-hand side. That was done. I had started to make really good headway moving down through her skirt, as well as through the sash belt thing that she's got, the sashy belt thing that she's wearing. So here's where she is now. So as you can see, I've now started stitching in, I'm calling these things the, gosh, what is it? They're like ropes of accidental death, or beaded ropes of accidental death. Because every time I look at these, they're beautiful, but I think, my goodness, if I tried to wear that, I would definitely trip, I would fall, I would break my own neck. And so they make me laugh when I look at them, even though they're beautiful. But I've started stitching in these bottom section of these with her tassels and her you know, all of her beaded garlands. So I'm stitching those in. I'm almost done here on the left-hand side of her dress. I've stitched in more of the black on her skirt now. And the bottom of her dress is like heavily bead encrusted, and it's got this really beautiful like leaf and swirl motif going on. And so you can see I've started stitching in some of the metallic there, and I'm getting into the section where the first of the beads will be stitched in. So moving my way down there, started stitching in also this kind of trailing train of her dress that begins here. So I'm working on that off to this one side. And then I've put in more of her sash as well, and you're kind of seeing where that's beginning to trail away behind her. So this one, I've made decent progress, not as much progress as I would have liked. So I picked this one up and started working on it after I got back from Tanzania last week. So I've been home a week now. And this one just, I've struggled with, got a specialty fiber. I've had some not problems. This week is the first couple of days I was home. I was really struggling a little bit with like the lingering effects of jet lag. And, I didn't rest well when I was traveling because I was sick. And so I was waking up kind of early. So I've just been extra tired. And so I've been going to bed, you know, an hour or two earlier than I probably normally would. Which has cut into my stitching time. So she's got decent progress, not as much as I would have liked, but it's okay. That's just the way life goes. And you know, these things, we get them done when we get them done. but she's definitely really taking shape now, and it's fun to see her coming together and looking so beautiful. So that is my at the Met. Okay, so that's it for whips that we are working on. We don't have any new starts this time, but we do have a couple of questions that we wanted to answer. So the first one was actually for Gary, and this is from our friend Connie. And Connie said, she asked, has your Captain America changed your approach to choosing new projects? And I thought that was a really interesting question. So Gary, over to you.
Yes.
It's like, do you want to elaborate on that?
It definitely has. The funny thing is I'm looking at the camera battery and it's almost gone. So we'll see how this turns out. The short answer to that is obviously yes, because I said it several times. But sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. Yes, it has. The easiest way to put it is we saw a fancy lady, was it? We saw a fancy lady. I don't remember what the title of it was.
Raven Queen.
Oh, Raven Queen. I mean, if I could find a picture of it, I'll put it up. And I kind of was thinking about doing that. And I don't think I would have even considered it if I hadn't done the Captain America, because it's just all the different colors and spaces and all that stuff. Had to learn a ton. So yes, it has. It made me more confident. So I guess that's the answer.
All right. So you guys, 2 years from now, Gary will start his first Haid, and then there'll be nothing to stop him. He doesn't agree with that. Okay. So then we had one other question, and this one was from me. And just because of the way the YouTube is doing names now, I may have gotten this down wrong or say this wrong. So if I butcher your name, I am very sorry. But I believe it is Katin Karuda. And they said, hi, I'm starting up my first project with tent/half cross. And this person is going to be stitching the ornament from Butterfly Port Mauve, like the one that I'm doing in my weekend stitch. And they said, can you explain when you do which stitch? I want to avoid skewing the fabric if possible. So this is a really good question. And one thing I do want to say, Gary and I have been talking lately, we've talked several times over the last year or so about doing like a Flosstube extra, showing my technique that I use for the half stitch and continental stitch, because it's something I get regular questions on. So it'd be really great to have a video that provides sort of a visual tutorial on my stitching technique for those who are interested. But to kind of explain it, hopefully fairly quickly.
And action figures to help tell the story.
Yes, obviously. I should also mention, I use a slightly different technique on my rose trellisin than I'm using on Butterfly Port Mauve, because as for many of us, my full coverage technique has evolved from when I started rose trellisin 4.5 years ago. And so I'm, my more evolved technique is what I'm doing on Butterfly Port Mauve. But essentially, if you look at your grid, your chart grid, and you have a 10 by 10 square, what I do is on the odd rows, so 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, I do half stitch. And on the even rows, I do the continental stitch. So on the very first row of that 10 square block, I'm going to do my half stitch from left to right, all the way across. And then the next row down, I'm going to work my way back using the continental stitch. So again, on the front of the fabric, the stitches are going to look exactly the same, but on the back, the floss is pulling in opposite directions. And so you get an even pull on the fabric, so it helps it not skew. So now I think the next logical question from that would be, well, what if you don't have, what if you've got stitches on row 1 and then you don't have any more of that color until row 5 or 6? So that's why I say odd rows, I do the half stitch, even rows, the continental stitch, because even if I have to skip a couple of rows and carry my floss down to where the next place that stitch occurs, I just count down to see, is it an odd row or an even row? And then I use either continental or half stitch as appropriate. And so that way, regardless of where the next set of stitches are, I am always pulling in those opposite directions throughout the piece, and that helps to prevent the skewing. So, and you know, those of you who have seen my rose trellis in have seen I wasn't using that technique when I first started. And so it has created warping in that fabric that I haven't been able to fully get rid of. I'm really hoping that blocking it will fix it, but I think I'm going to need help from a really professional framer. And even then, I'm not sure. It may not end up being a perfect frame job. Whereas on Butterfly Port Mauve, where my technique has evolved, I'm not having any of that warping or skewing, and this technique is working really well. I hope that's helpful. I hope that explanation is clear, but please do let us know if you have more questions and we'll try and answer those. Okay, so I have a couple pieces of haul to show you and then a new project bag that I made. So first on the haul, I picked up a couple of PDF charts. So I don't print out like the covers of my PDF, so we'll just have to put a picture up of both of these. But I picked up a couple of new charts that I'm really excited about. They're both from Reflet de Soie. And the first one is one that has been sitting in my wish list for quite a while. And Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff just started this one in the last month or so. And it's so pretty, you guys. And it was just kind of the kick in the pants that I needed to go ahead and be like, all right, I'm buying it. And this one is going to be a special piece for me to stitch when I do start it, which is probably going to be sometime in the next year or two. So I've talked in the past about how Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, who like, I'm sure all of you are watching her because she's absolutely amazing and she's a beautiful stitcher. But one of the things that Olivia does on a number of her projects is she stitches pieces either in honor of or memory of people in her family. And I just think that's a lovely way to personalize your pieces, particularly your samplers. And so one of the things that, you know, when I see a piece that makes me think of somebody that I love, a lot of times I'll be like, I'm going to stitch that for that person. So you guys have seen my recent finish of Blackberry House by Plum Street Samplers. I stitched that in honor of my dad. And so this piece, which is Ernestine Briere 1909, as I said, by Reflet de Soie, this piece is one that as soon as I saw it, my immediate thought was of my paternal grandmother. So my grandma, my dad's mom, she's been gone for about 11 years now, almost 11 years. And Grandma was a gardener. She loved flowers. She loved working in the garden. She was also a notorious cheater at Scrabble. And she's probably like wagging her finger at me from the grave saying, I never cheated, but she had far too much luck at Scrabble to not be a cheater. So Grandma, we know. But anyway, Grandma was just a lovely, sweet, soft person. She had a little spicy side to her, but you didn't get to see that very often. But she just had this very sweet, wonderful demeanor. She was one of those people that she had a way of having a really positive and beautiful outlook on life. And she loved working in her garden. She loved her flowers. And so when I first saw this design, I immediately thought of my beautiful grandma, and I knew this was the one I wanted to stitch for her. So I have a couple of charts in my stash that have a similar feel for me, that I know I've got somebody in my family or a loved one who I know I want to stitch that either in honor or memory of. And this one is high on the priority list for stitching for Grandma. So I'm excited to have this one. Then the other chart that I got was an impulse purchase, which is, if you're a regular viewer, you know I don't do a lot of impulse purchases on charts because I've got a big enough stash that I don't want to just buy things because I like them. I want to buy them because I know I'm going to stitch it and it's going to be a priority. I'm not a big collector just for collecting's sake. And that's just me personally. I have no problem. I think it's great that other people love to collect. But so I don't do a lot of impulse buys because I like to think about, am I going to really stitch this? But I saw this and I was like, add to cart. So I also picked up Heloise Cornu, 1896, again by Reflet de Soie. Now, one thing that's special about or different about this chart, there are two different colorways for this chart. And I picked up the muted version. There is also, I think with the original version of this, there are the original colorway, which is very bright. It's like bright pinks and greens and, it's like, whoa, whoa. And it's beautiful. It's just not my vibe. So I would never have thought to purchase this chart, but I happened to see the more muted colorway first. And the rich eggplanty purples and the pretty greens I thought were so beautiful that I was just like, I know I want to stitch this. And in fact, it's one I may stitch in honor of another family member. It's kind of calling to me for that. And so I don't know when I'll do it, but I know I'll stitch this one. So this is Heloise Cornu 1896, and it's really, really pretty. I like it a lot. And we'll show you both colorways. We probably have already shown you both colorways so you can see the difference between the two options on that particular chart. Okay, so the last thing to show you, I made another project bag. Yes, I definitely have a new addiction. I'm loving making project bags. But this is kind of a funny story. Well, not story, but just a couple funny reflections on this. So I'll show it to you and then I'll talk about it a bit. So this is my beautiful new project bag. So this, I made this using a mini charm pack, and the fabric line is Sister Bay by Two Sisters. Is it Two Sisters or Three Sisters? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I think it's Two Sisters for Moda. That's what the fabric line is from. So as I said, I used the mini charm pack, and then I picked a couple of coordinating fabrics for the accents. So I really love the beautiful floral fabric here across the top. And then of course used the same on the back. And then on the inside used this really, this other kind of vintagey, pretty blue, coordinating fabric. And then, made my own, zipper pull to go with it. So I'm almost ashamed to share this. If you're a quilter, look away because you'll just shake your head at me. But you guys, as much as I love this bag and it's like a monster zombie of a bag. So, it's like the quilting that I did on this bag, y'all, is a crime against fabric. So it's not straight lines. It's very uneven. And whew, it's so bad. It's so bad, you guys, that I'm expecting that the manufacturer of my sewing machine is going to send me a letter saying, if you ever sew anything that bad again, we're coming to reclaim your machine.
All right.
It's bad.
All right. You made your point.
I made my point. I love it anyway. It's my zombie bag. But so I modified the technique that I used for the last bag that I made. But and definitely did a lot of learning. So that's one of the real positives is that even with all the flaws, it's still a really beautiful bag. And I learned a lot along the way. But the technique that the tutorial that I followed calls for, it uses, and it's meant to speed up the process. So you don't individually stitch all of your squares together. Instead, you do the layout on a sheet of, or a piece of interfacing, and then you iron it all down, and then you sew your seams together. And for whatever reason, that technique, all of my squares they're all in the perfect spot when I put them down on the interfacing and I iron them on. And for some reason, by the time I get done ironing them on and sewing the seams, I'm not getting consistently perfect points between the squares. There seems to be some weird pulling that kind of happens. And so I'm not ending up at the end of the day with a panel that is perfectly square and flat and straight. And so that's actually where I ended up running into problems. Now, the tutorial that I followed for this does not do any quilting on the front panel of the bag. And so that was one of the departures that I made this time around, was to modify it to do the quilting. What I think I'm going to do next time is use a more traditional technique where I'm not doing the interfacing. It'll take me longer, but I think I'm going to individually sewing my patchwork squares together. I think I will get a better, more squared off result using that more, just the traditional technique. Like I said, it will take longer, but I think that if I'm going to do quilting on future front panels, I'll get a better result. I'll have a better, like, nice panel to work with, rather than something like this where when you get up close and personal, like because the quilting, I was trying to follow the line of the squares, and because some of the seams and the points weren't perfectly lined up like they should have just because of the technique, that's where the quilting went awry. It's also funny because on this left side of the bag, it's okay. And then it just like kind of cuts in. So it's fine. I love my zombie bag. I'm continuing to learn. There are more patchwork bags coming. You're probably going to see more of these in future videos because I'm enjoying making them, and I'm loving getting to pick fabrics that, like from lines that I'm loving and create bags. So definitely more to come. Lots of good learning, but come watch this space for future crimes against fabric. So anyway, that's my beautiful bag. So that's it for us today. We'll just close it out, tell you what we're going to be working on for the next couple of weeks, and then let you get on to the next video. So I'm going to spend another afternoon, evening working on my my fancy lady, see if I can get a little bit more progress on At the Met. Then I'm going to spend a week working on my squirrel from the Bittersweet Trio that's in the seasonal part of my rotation. I'm really hoping I can finish that little squirrel up and maybe get a new start on the next piece in the seasonal rotation. So we'll see. Wish me luck. I'm also going to spend a week working on my wild card piece, which is It's Cabin Fever by Dimensions. So I'm looking forward to that. And I am looking forward to getting back to Butterfly Port Mauve, which is my weekend stitch. I haven't had a chance to work on that since our last video just because I traveled, and so I've not had the time. And then, of course, Gary will be working on both of his pieces, Women Who Behave and Louis Armstrong. So, Gary, do you want to quickly tell us about our little, who are the action figures that are bringing us the video today?
I think from now on, I'm just going to put it at the end of the video, like at the very end, sort of like a bonus scene. But it's Batman and Robin. It's a different Robin than most people are familiar with, but they're having a snack.
Do you want to tell them how you ended up with that Batman and the story behind him?
What story? I thought we just went to GameStop.
We did, but
I gave them money.
Well,
I got the fig.
I don't know that you would have bought this, but when we were at GameStop looking at figures, I saw that Batman and I said to Gary, I was like, that looks like a Batman who's had too many cupcakes. He just looks like...
Yeah, so then I started laughing.
Yes.
And then I brought it up to the counter to buy it and related the story to the guy behind the counter. And this was his response. Anyway, so... That's how that went. Maybe that's why I completely forgot it. Anyway, yeah, they're just having a couple of beers and some a taco and some pizza. Normal stuff.
Normal stuff. Just,
But yeah, but from now on, I'm just going to flash their picture at the end. We will not speak of them again.
Oh, all right. All right, that does it for us today. So thank you again for spending time with us. We hope you like our videos. If you do, please do give us a thumbs up. That does help us in the YouTube algorithm and lets us find new viewers just like you who hopefully will enjoy our video. We love hearing from you, so please feel free to leave a comment. We try and make sure that we at least heart those, even if we don't have time to actually write out a response. Or you can send us email to globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. I try and post periodic updates to Instagram between videos, so follow me there. I'm globetrotting_stitcher. And if you'd like to get notifications when we post new videos, you can hit the little bell and YouTube will send you a note to say when we have something new up. So be well, be safe, happy stitching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm not going to say cut yet. Cut.
أنا لا في يوم أغمى عليك أنا أحبك يا حبيبي